Barry, if he shows up, he can join us.
All right, at your leisure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, be with us this evening as we do the business for the city and the community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
This is going to be item C. This is the approval of agendas. This is the approved agenda for April 13th, 2026, regular planning commission meeting.
I'll move to.
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright.
Very good. This is item B, citizens' comments. So at this point, we would allow anyone who wants to comment on anything they deem necessary. They're allowed 3 minutes. State your first and last name, where you reside. If you're here for any of the variances, lot splits, or anything of that nature, we will have a formal hearing for that agenda item, which is allowed to speak at a longer length of time. We're not obligated to cap you at a particular time. So, Mr. Chair, at this point, we may open citizens' comments.
We'll open the citizens' call.
Very good. You guys want to speak during citizens' comments, or do you have a particular item you want to speak during?
Variance
Variance? Okay.
I got a variance.
Okay. Very good.
Alright,
You know those gentlemen in the back, so we close.
we'll close citizens' comments.
Very good. This item E, consent agenda. So this is to approve the minutes from March 9, 2026. And just as a reminder, we had a site plan for over the property group and a variance from setbacks for 216 West Swanee Drive.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 9, 2025. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for being patient.
No, you're good.
At old business, there is none. New business, this is G1, this is the area of influence expansion. So, discussions have arisen recently regarding the city's area of influence and the possibility of modifying that area of influence. Timing seems appropriate given the new comprehensive plan formation, including the area of influence map in that comprehensive plan. With that being said, there are a couple of points of clarity that should be made. The area of influence is not the same as the extraterritorial jurisdiction. The extraterritorial jurisdiction, known as the ETJ, is defined by state law and functions in a similar way to the urban area of influence, but it has several different provisions. The ETJ allows the city to have regulatory authority in the form of zoning over the 3-mile area if the county has not adopted zoning regulations, which they have. And so if the city administers the subdivision regulations of the county within the 3-mile range, they must have 2 members who reside outside the city limits, which is why we have Richard Walker, Parks, for that very reason, so that if the county decides that they don't want to regulate everything around the city, then we can step in and say we're going to regulate it with our subdivision regulations. That's under state law with the ETJ. The urban area of influence is saying the county recognizes that the city is growing and that certain provisions may come up like conditional use permits or rezonings, things of that nature, which that the planning commission should have review of before it goes to the board of county commissioners. And so that's what the urban area of influence is. It's a negotiated area. It's not defined by state law. It's just however we want to define it. And then if the county agrees with us, then it gets adopted. So, for one, the Planning Commission is submitting an application to the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission to increase the urban area of influence. The Planning Commission has to be the one to agree to submit that application. This is per the provisions of the county. They're saying that initiation of an amendment request for an enlargement must come from the Planning Commission of the city within the county. So for you, that would be you guys, if you guys want to submit that. Staff is asking that you do consider submitting it, and we'll show you why. So this is Wichita, and as you know, Wichita has grown significantly over the last decade. Now it's jumped over 167, so it's 167 right here, it's jumped over it. And purple was our negotiated urban area of influence in 2020. I remember because I was here when we did that. We negotiated with the county and said, hey, we think this is more reasonable. Yellow is our current city limits. So as you can see, we're breaking out of the boundaries of our purple area, which is our current area of influence. And we've grown out this way, and we're going to grow to the south and north and the west. And so we're going to probably quickly eclipse our urban area of influence. And so green has been proposed by city staff as our new area of influence, and This dashed orange line would be our extraterritorial jurisdiction if we were utilizing that and the county said that they didn't want to have subdivision regulations within that area, then that would be our extraterritorial jurisdiction. Right now, what planning commission is considering is green. We're saying, hey, we would like to go this big. We have exponential growth and we foresee that exponential growth to continue. We do realize as staff that puts more of a burden on planning commission because you guys would have to see more conditional use permits in the county, more variances from the county, more rezonings from the county. So that's just something to take into consideration, but we feel it's appropriate since our growth is what it is. Financially, none. Application for modification must come from the City Planning Commission per Shelley Woodard. She's one of our city attorneys, and I had her review these regulations and contrast to the state law. She agrees that state law doesn't really say how it should be played out, and since state law doesn't say how it should be played out, the county dictates how that's played out, and the county says it has to come from you guys. So, it is recommended the planning commission approve the modified area of influence and allow staff to submit the application for the amendment to the county. So, is there any questions about that?
So let's say this is amended and approved as is. If it's if it's in Goddard's area of influence, can it be annexed by Wichita? Or is this put?
Yeah, it can still be annexed by Wichita.
Okay.
So the green, Wichita can still annex the green. There could be a discussion potentially about annexation, but usually just because we have an area of influence doesn't mean we have exclusive rights to annexation. It doesn't give us that exclusivity to annex only that green area, but it does give us more of an argument against other cities. Let's say Garden Plain was like, we want to annex this green area, and we had this adopted by the county would talk to us about that. Be like, does this make sense? Does it not make sense? Especially if it was an island annexation. That's kind of a key point there. If Garden Plain was like, we want to annex this area, but they're not touching it in any way, and it's in our urban area of influence, then the Board of County Commissioners, which makes that final decision, would probably deny that island annexation for Garden Plain. Because they're like, this is in Goddard's urban area of influence, you're not touching it, and it's not in your growth area, so why are you annexing it? And then they could potentially veto that island annexation. So there's a lot of kind of interplay that happens between cities of the second class and Wichita and county, because county and Wichita have sort of that joint ownership. But Wichita, it doesn't give us exclusive rights. So if Wichita was like, we want to annex this, and they're touching it, they'll just annex it. So I hope that answers that question.
Yes, thank you.
I don't really see where we could go wrong by doing it.
I agree.
As well. Yeah.
So that,
Some of you have seen you guys have seen, well, some of you have been here longer have seen conditional use permits for boats and RV storage. That came up a lot 3 or 4 years ago, so you saw several conditional use permits for that. That was a lot.
10 years. 10 years is what it is.
Yeah.
On the one up on.
That's right, off of 199th and Maple.
Yep.
Yes. And so, a conditional use permit, for those of you who don't know, there was a conditional use permit approved for a boat and RV storage that came before the planning commission. And it was one of the rare situations where conditional use permit, this room was generally full, it was like half full, and almost everybody was in favor of it except for one couple that was against it. And so the reason most people were in favor of it is because all their boats and RVs were stored there. So county was like, well, it's a conditional use permit, but it's in the city of Goddard's area of influence. And so even though you don't have the final authority to deny it, if the planning commission at the time had denied it, said we're not in favor of it, it would have went before the Board of County Commissioners and forced a supermajority of them to have to vote in favor of it. So, but since it was generally passed with favor, it just required a simple majority of the Board of County Commissioners to approve it. So, but yeah, Commissioner Klein is correct, but that one had a 10-year limit on it, which was something unique because I'd never seen that before for a conditional use permit. They had actually put a disclosure on there that after 10 years, they would have to come back and ask for another one. So did we see that again? No. But yes, that's something to think about. But it doesn't give you ultimate authority, but it gives you more provision and oversight. And I work with Wichita quite a bit on with the planning staff, and so we would have that dialogue.
so that's a good, I guess that kind of leads to the other question I had, was what you mentioned, so that, that case came before the planning commission, even though it wasn't in the city of Goddard,
That's
it
right.
was in it was in the area of influence. What other items within the area of influence would be under?
Yes, good question.
Yeah.
Variances, conditional use permits, and rezonings are most of what you're gonna see. So, they have a provision on their website, which might be a typo, which, I mean, I was gonna ask them about, but they list conditional use permits, and they also list conditional CUPs, and they have them as two separate paragraphs. I don't know if that's a typo on their part, or if they're trying to make a distinction between a conditional use permit and a CUP, and I don't know what that would be. But they mentioned that, CUPs, conditional use permits, variances, and rezonings would come before the planning commission if it's in the area of influence. Plats on occasion as well, if it's in our area of influence, they would say, do you want to serve this with water and sewer if it's in the county? So if the county is platting, they typically, and I don't always see this, I don't know how that triggers, but on occasion they'll submit it to us and say, hey, this is being platted within your area of influence, do you want to serve it with water and sewer? Now, sometimes that's kind of, you know, we just don't have that capacity to serve it with water and sewer. If it's 2 miles away, it's just not cost effective to serve it with water and sewer. But sometimes if it's close enough, that could be an internal discussion if we want to serve it with water and sewer. But if it's way out here, it could be difficult to serve that economically, unless it was like $2 million houses, then maybe, so.
Is there any benefit to annexing the land, especially on the east side of Goddard and Green, so that?
Annexing it? Yes, I always am in favor of annexing as much land as possible,
Yeah.
Because it gives us more authority. Annexing that locks up at that point. Then you just have wide discretion. If anything happens on that land, it has to come before the planning commission. Right now, the green is just like, hey, we might have oversight, but you might not. If you annex it, you would absolutely have full authority over it.
With Wichita like encroaching on us, I don't know
Yes.
if that would be beneficial at this point to.
Highly beneficial.
consider.
Highly beneficial. Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Highly beneficial. The more land we can annex, the more regulatory control we have over it, and then we can develop the way we see fit, and we can include it in our comprehensive plan. So yeah, highly beneficial.
So how does land become annexed? Does the homeowner have to, is that the avenue of the homeowner, or not homeowner, but the landowner coming to the city and saying, is that the main avenue for?
That's like
annexation?
99% of it. So there's several avenues for annexation. Predominantly, and it falls under what's called KSA 12520. So that's a state law that says, hey, you have these different ways of annexing property. There's a petition for annexation and there's unilateral annexation. So those are two umbrellas under which there's all these different provisions that we don't need to get into. But those are the two umbrellas: unilateral annexation and a petition. Petition is, hey city, I bought this land on auction, I want to develop it. Can you annex me? And we go, sure, why not? You know, unilateral annexation says, hey, property owner, do you want to be annexed into the city? No, I don't want to. Too bad, we're going to annex you into the city. So those are the two options. So unilateral annexation comes up on occasion, especially if the city's already providing service or water, or if it's deemed appropriate given our growth and our urban influence. Then sometimes it's considered appropriate if we're paying for the roads, if we're paying for the water, if we're paying for the sewer, and they're benefiting from it. Then sometimes it's deemed appropriate to unilaterally annex somebody if they're benefiting from that infrastructure. So that's something to consider. That accounts for like 2% of our annexations. The vast majority of our annexations are petition. And so somebody says, hey, I bought this land, I want to be annexed. It's been happening more frequently where individual property owners have been asking us to annex them, which is kind of tricky because sometimes a property owner is 2 miles away, or let's just say they're half a mile away, and they want to sell their property, and then the bank says you have to get a water well inspection and a lagoon inspection. And the property owner is like, how much is that going to take? And so they go get a quote, it's $10,000. So then they call me and they're like, can you annex me now and provide sewer and water so I can sell my house? And the answer is usually no, of course, because that's crazy. We can't annex it that fast and provide sewer and water in 48 hours. It's just not realistic. So that's come up like 7 times in the last 7 years, I guess. So occasionally people are like, I need to sell my house and I need water and sewer like now. And we're like, we can't do that. That's not how that works. So yeah, those are the two big ones: unilateral and petition.
Thank you.
Yes.
Trying to figure out where we are here. Is that Kellogg with the line down the middle?
This
The
is
little
kind of right
triangle.
here. Oh, yes, right here, yeah, so this would be Casey's, would be right over on the
Okay, and then the catty corner to that with the bigger triangle down to the right. Is that 23rd?
This right here?
Yeah.
167 development is right here, the trail,
Okay.
that's why that triangle.
So the area just to the east, why would we not close that in?
This area right here?
Uh-huh.
That's a little tough. Some of that is, I mean, quite honestly, some of those are mobile homes developments, and so the county doesn't want them, Wichita doesn't want them, and generally we don't want them either, so we kind of avoid mobile homes. But it's not impossible to say that we wouldn't consider that. Some of it also is just kind of industrial land or ag land, but it's not, usually what we were trying to fill in is more greenfield, what we call greenfield, which is raw land that has a higher potential for being developed. Some of this is already kind of locked in, so it's a little bit difficult, but it's not impossible. We could consider it, but it might create a conflict between us and Wichita in that particular area, but it's not impossible. It's something that we could consider.
Just curious.
What is the one little tiny square? Just above that? Right there, you just passed it, go back
That's,
up, right there, no
that's-
down,
That's Wichita.
no down,
This one,
no, just to the right,
this one.
right there. That those two houses over there off 167?
So, yes, this is 167, this is right here, this is, Maple Village, which is a mobile home park. And then there's a couple of houses right in there that are in the county. And I think there's like a, automobile shop there or something on the southeast corner of 167 Maple. There's that little area as well, but I haven't looked at all those properties in depth, so I don't know how many exist in that area. Yeah, that's 167, on the southeast corner of 167 Maple. I passed by that lot, I think it's an automobile shop, but I'm not 100% sure. I see.
It's a machine shop?
Machine shop.
Yeah.
It might not be an automobile shop, it's also a machine shop.
on the corner.
Yeah, it's a machine
Okay.
shop.
Okay.
10 years from now, this area is gonna be a highly desirable commercial area, given the amount of growth and development that we have, so, I mean, it's something to consider.
Why wouldn't we want that area there, that southeast corner?
We could bring it up, some of this was kind of a negotiation internally between staff, and so, for me, I was trying to consider more greenfields, city administrator, the WC administrator were considering more greater advancement, so, this one didn't particularly come up. I could ask, just see if maybe they might be more inclined to having more of that area, but I haven't really looked at it in depth to see if it was reasonable or not, or, there's, honestly, all this green, whether or not, it's whether or not the county's gonna agree to that, that's another question though. So we can mark everything green we want to, but the county's gonna push back on us, this happened in 2020. The purple was a negotiation, originally the purple was like this square area, and the county pushed back, and so we had to have a negotiation with them about what we thought was reasonable given our growth. So the green, even though we proposed the green, they may push back, and this green area will shrink, so sometimes if you go big, they push it back, and so then we try to, and it comes back again, so it's gonna be a dialogue for sure. We have to go have a hearing with the Board of County Commissioners and the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission to see if this is, would you guys accept this or not? So that's gonna be a conversation. They may, for one, I mean, that might just be contention. They may be like, why are you guys trying to take this when we're not gonna take that? So sometimes it's easy just to say, hey, can we just have all this, and you know, we won't take that? I don't know. It's sort of trading on.
That makes sense.
Are we up for a motion?
I think so.
I'll make the motion, I recommend.
Lost second?
Good enough.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Alright, motion carried.
Very good. This is item G2, this is a preliminary replat for 167th West Division. So Baughman Company has submitted a preliminary replat of the 167th West Division for the introduction of a new road. This replat will allow the new road being introduced to connect with a dedicated easement granted by the Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, which will run to land just to the west, which is actually east of 103rd. By moving forward with this replat, the land is now viable for being developed, allowing the city to work with developers to continue potential residential development in that area. By replatting the development, loses one lot, but the city gains an additional 68 for some potential development. But I don't actually know if that's true, if they lose one lot.
I think you gain one.
We gain one lot,
Yeah.
actually, so we don't actually lose one lot, we actually gain one lot. I think I put that on there thinking we did lose one, but it's probably better if Hoffman comments on that, because they have a better understanding of it. Planning Commission is reviewing a preliminary replat for 167 West Mission to allow for a road to pass through the property and across KDOT right of way to land located just to the east of Lenny Blair, which makes more sense. So this is what we're looking at. KDOT gave us this as a temporary access point because the fire department requires 2 access points. KDOT granted a permanent easement here for us so that we could put a road through here and over to this land so that we could potentially develop it. You can see that it's landlocked here. Without these 2 access points, it can't be developed. Baughman is replatting 167 so that this road can get punched through on this purple side over here. And that's what it looks like. Chris Rose of Baughman is here if you guys have any questions for him.
So the Carmella Street is what is what we're approving, basically? Or
You're
that's
approving
plat?
the
Yeah.
whole replat for this section. The dark line shows the replatted portion, but the whole point of the replat is to introduce a new road.
But for now, that road is in,
That's
and
now.
the thought is sometime in the future.
Is it a cul-de-sac?
Yeah.
The access road to Kellogg, how would that work out for that neighborhood, I guess? Would it be,
For this neighborhood,
yes?
this would be emergency access only, so it'd be gated.
Oh,
KDOT wants that gated. They were very adamant that if they give us temporary access here, it'd be for EMS, fire, and police only, so it'd be gated with a padlock, and gravelled. And then once this comes into play, and potentially more development happens over here, there's a second access point over here, and this would go away. But for now, this would be the main entry point into this area if it gets developed. This would stay there with the gate across it, and fire EMS needs access if they can access it this way. But it wouldn't be for through traffic.
What's driving the shape of both of these?
I had
Kind
the
of.
same question.
Yeah, so this funnel right here was for, if you can imagine a diamond, if you can see my green jumping on the roof ceiling here. So if you imagine this as sort of a diamond, then this was gonna tie down, 54 was gonna be a flyover that ties down, you can see my green arrow going like that. It would tie down to, was that K42 down there?
Yes.
Yes, so K42, so it would go from 54 down to K42, and then this way it would fly up to 96. So this is the 96 bypass, is on the north side of 54. There was also a 54 K42 bypass, which is on the south side. So this funnel was sold to KDOT a long time ago. And that's why we have to get permission from KDOT for this temporary access here and this permanent easement over here. And KDOT has already granted these 2. But then of course you need to replat this area here, which the developer had to agree to for this section to connect into it. But the funnel was for that. If you can imagine a diamond will fly over highways for that very reason.
Is that ever gonna happen?
Don't say never.
I can't say, I have no idea. It's been in the works since the 80s, I think, I'm not sure, but, I was with KDOT today and they couldn't give me an answer, so. I was on a Teams meeting, they weren't sure. It's hard to say. There's a lot of, energy behind it to make it happen, at least the 96 one, not necessarily the 42 one, but the 96 one, but I don't, it's really expensive. It's, at this point, I think it's close to like 800 million, so it's a lot, so.
But they're just wanting to put a road from one to the other and replat that.
That's right. The road, we would have to put the road in and then cross here, but this replat allows us to have this road being dedicated to us.
And they're losing one lot. one
Actually, it sounds like
buildable
we're gaining one lot.
Oh,
We
you're
gained
gaining
one.
one?
I think we did gain one.
I thought we were losing a lot, but I think that was wrong. I think we were actually gaining a lot. Those lots on that corner there, since it tapered, were kind of large, and I think that with the replat, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the replat, the lots were actually being able to be reformatted to more traditional lots, so we actually gained one, which is interesting, so.
That lot 1 at Dora Street and Carmella Street
Uh-huh.
just looks awkward. How would that work as far as the front? What would be would the driveway come off Dora or Carmella on that?
We leave it up to the home builder.
Okay, it's just bigger
The
things.
setbacks would be like any other setbacks, right? You have the side setbacks, the rear setback, and the front setback. But if they felt like Dora was a better access for their orientation of the house, then they could have their approach go on the Dora. But if they felt like Carmella was better, then they could have it go off of Carmella. You're right, that is an awkward shape, but at the end of the day, there's lots of awkward shaped lots and lots of subdivisions around Goddard, you'd be surprised at how they make it work, so. As long as it's 20 feet off the private line, then they're able to make that work.
I don't have a problem with it.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary replat of the 167th West Edition.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Alright.
G3 is gonna be the final replat, so we don't have a one-step final plat. I'll probably present that to you guys in May, and that's the possibility of if you have a small area that maybe only has less than 10 lots, and it's less than like 10 acres or something, then you guys could consider just doing a final plat instead of having a preliminary plat. But we don't have that right now, so I have to do a preliminary and a final. So now you'll be considered the final plat, which if you look at them, there's some differences between preliminary and final, but the one preliminary has contour lines, some additional information on it. The final, some of that stuff gets removed before it gets recorded. But the information is all the same. This is the final plat. This would have to be approved before city council after approval by planning commission.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Very good. This is G4. This is a street name change for the Goddard Galleria. So Dwayne Dugan has submitted an application to change the name of the road that runs through the Goddard Galleria, which is being built right now on the south side of Walmart. He would like to change it from Season Street, 2nd Street, and 6th Street to Galleria Drive and Gateway Street. The city doesn't have a formal street name change process, and as such, city staff has mimicked the process for Wichita. So I created an application based off Wichita, and I'm going through the same process as Wichita. The process involves an application followed by planning commission review and final approval by city council with adoption of the ordinance finalizing that change. So planning commission is doing a street name change for the Goddard Galleria. Season Street will be Galleria Drive, 2nd Street will be Galleria Drive, and 6th Street will equal Gateway Street. And here's the map. So the green, it would be the area that's being changed. So 6th Street would change to Gateway. There's a drops down on the Seasons, and 2nd Street would change to Galleria Drive.
What is the name of, from 6th Street going east? 6th Street the whole way across?
No, this is private. This is a private drive, and there's no names.
So that's private, but North Season Street is public.
Yes, so this is all public, and this is private over here.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I thought it was confusing that North Season Street was across Kellogg from Seasons.
The county has a nomenclature process which basically says that if a road is running in parallel to another road, even though it's 3 miles away, they're going to adopt the same name. I've run into conflict with that over the years, and so we can, since it's in our jurisdiction, we're welcome to push back, and we can have our own nomenclature process. Whether or not it's a street, an avenue, a drive, a circle, a court, or whatever else, we still generally follow the same process as the county, depending on how that road is laid out. But Galleria Drive, the drive is a bit of a stretch because typically you see a drive inside of a residential subdivision. Now, granted, we do have some residential projects along there in the form of apartments, so there could be a justification for that. And since the curve is pretty soft, it's not a sharp curve, then it still can be considered a drive. Gateway, obviously, this is 6th Street, it's changing to Gateway Street, so the street is staying the same. But yeah, I understand we run into that issue with the street nomenclature a lot when it comes to county provisions.
a motion to approve the street name change for the Goddard Galleria. I'll second.
You said first and second, 2 seconds, very good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. This is item H, Board of Zoning Appeals. This is H1, the height modification for the C2 General Business District. So just as a quick background, as the city entertains more urban projects, that question of bulk regulations comes up from time to time. I should probably advance these slides. I just realized I haven't done it in a while. C2 General Business District, question of what would be an ideal maximum height based on reasonable parameters has arisen. A recent project has requested a variance to allow a height maximum increase, and it is believed to be reasonable at some point for others to ask for the same thing in the future. So city staff has reviewed the maximum heights of other cities within the general commercial zoning and compiled this in this agenda packet for reference. City staff is proposing the city increase the maximum height from 62.5 to 75 feet within the C2 zoning classification. These are other cities we've looked at, so Wichita, Derby, Bel Air, Mays, and Valley Center. There's a variety of different height maximums. Wichita obviously having the greatest being at 80 feet, but they do allow additional 2 feet for each foot of additional setback. So if the setback is 20 and then they go 22 feet, then they can go from 80 to 84 for their height. And then if they keep moving back from their setback, they can add more height to the building. So that's kind of something that's kind of interesting there. I'm not sure 100% how I would feel about that, because in terms of density and urban standards, you kind of want to maximize your buildable footprint as much as possible. So the more you set the building back, even though that helps with pedestrian engagement, you lose out on buildable area. So I mean, there's something to be considered about that. Derby has 65 feet except that communication structures and et cetera. Can go up to 80 without a special use permit, which implies that perhaps you could use a special use in the business district. I'm not sure, I've gone through all of Derby's regulations. Bel Air had multifamily districts at 75 feet, provided such structures are set back from all property lines a distance equal to or greater than its height, which I'm not particularly keen on that. Mays had 55 feet for a multifamily district, plus 1 foot of additional height for each foot of setback beyond the minimum required setback, so they were kind of going something similar to Wichita. And then Valley Center had 35 for the general business district at their maximum. Financially, the small costs are public notice as well as the ordinance adopted by City Council. This would have to go to City Council for final approval. It is recommended that the Planning Commission, 1, open the public hearing, receive comments from the public, close the public hearing, and approve the changes to C2 General Business District to allow for a maximum height of 75 feet. So, there's going to be a lot of changes on these next couple of agendas, and I'm going to ask you to open up a lot of public hearings, close public hearings. But in this particular case,
All right, we'll open the public hearing.
very good. I don't believe anybody's here for this particular case, but
All right, close the public hearing.
very good.
Just to make sure I remember correctly, when we were talking about the apartments, we're still gonna see a site plan, and we're still gonna have,
You've already approved the site plan contingent upon a variance.
I'm just saying in general, we would still see a site plan.
Oh, yes.
We could review the height for the location and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that's commercial, including multifamily, has to have a site plan. So you won't see site plans for single family or 2 family, but as soon as you go 3 family or greater, you have to have a site plan. And if it's commercial or industrial, you have to have a site plan. And that includes additions as well as principal uses. So anytime you see a new building or an addition to an existing building, there has to be a site plan.
So what is the setback? Is it 20 feet? Or what is the setback?
And 35 in commercial.
Okay.
It's 35 in commercial. Setbacks can get a little sticky sometimes because you can our regulations are unique, at least I think they're unique in the sense that under Article 2 of our subdivision regulations, you can plat a different setback than the zoning would allow, which is kind of interesting. So Usually if somebody's asking for a reduced setback, I would say you have to show it on the face of the plat, and then planning commission can be aware of it, because then you would see it on the plat. We would call it out during plat review. But the previous one, the new replat that we saw, there's no change in the setbacks, so it's the standard 25, so there's nothing special about it. But our subdivision regulations say that, hey, if zoning says it has to be 35, but you plat it as 30, then the plat has ultimate authority over the zoning regulation for the setback. So that's just something that's a little bit unique here. But typically on our C2, it's 35, so.
Are we anticipating any 75-foot buildings coming up?
That's hard to say. Honestly, I was a little bit surprised about the 66 and 10 inches one. I thought that was a little bit surprising. Because they didn't call it out. Some architects they put the height on the elevations as the eaves. And so I had to ask this architect for the Overland Property Group to put it on the elevations as the peak of the roof. And then when he put it on as the peak of the roof, it called it out as 66 feet 10 inches. And I was like, that exceeds our maximum. So that was kind of interesting. I've never seen that before. The Hampton is only 52. So, I mean, for perspective, the water tower is 100 feet, maybe even 120. I'm not sure. I think it's about 100 feet. So that's different. I think it's going to be a while before we see a 75, but I think we might see some more apartment complexes in the future that are over 62.5. They call it 5/1. A lot of cities have what's called 5/1. You have a commercial floor that's concrete, which you put parking and retail strip center underneath it, and then you put 5 levels of residential on top. It's very possible that could exceed 65, 70 feet, but I'm not sure.
Kind of like the one in Andover.
Yes, the one in Andover. What is that one called? Skyloft?
Yeah.
Yes, just like Skyloft. That's a very good example of 5/1.
I don't have a problem with it.
No, actually, we still have the ability to ask questions,
Okay.
site plan review, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll make a motion we approve the change to the C2 general business district to allow for a maximum height of 75 feet.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Very good. This is H2, a variance request. This is DAR 26-2. So Mr. Steve Burns has submitted a variance application for the property located at 400 North Main for the purpose of reducing the minimum lot size requirements for the purpose of splitting lot to add another house on the second lot created. So under Article 10, 107C, authorized variances from the provisions of these regulations shall be granted by the board only in accordance with the standards set out in section 10, 107B, may be granted only in the following instances and no other. So what this is basically saying is that, hey, to ask for a variance, you have to have one of the 8. You can't just ask for a variance to put a house in the middle of the street. You can't ask for a variance to put a satellite on top of your house, something of that nature. There has to be one of these 8. So in this case, we're going with number 1 to vary the applicable minimum lot area, lot width, and lot depth requirements. So the board may grant variance upon specific writing findings of fact, and so we go through the findings of fact here. As mentioned, you guys have seen these variances before. And the city attorney said, hey, this is for reference. It's not like you have to check the list and say that we meet all these in order to approve it. You guys can approve, deny, table, whatever you want when it comes to variances. Variances are approved by the planning commission and the planning commission only. If somebody's aggrieved by a decision of the planning commission, they have to take it up with district court. They can't go before the city council. So in this particular case, we're going to go through 1 through 5. That the variance request arises from such condition which is unique to the property in question, which is not ordinarily found in the same zoning district, and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or the applicant. So my answers are in orange. It's not particularly unique other than it's an older lot. So the lot is 75 feet with a depth as opposed to a traditional 100 or 120 or 140 like you see in some of the newer subdivisions. But no actions have been taken by the property owner at this time. That granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. So there are no adverse impact on adjacent property owners. There is potential for more property valuation increase. When we spoke with Jack Mannion, I've talked to him many times. Typically when you have an empty lot next to a property, or if you create an empty lot in this particular case and then you build upon it, it actually increases the value of the surrounding property. So that's just something to take into account. Obviously, anytime you introduce any more residential units, it's gonna have more cars. That's just something to take into consideration. That the strict application of the provisions of these regulations from which a variance is requested will constitute an unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application. So in my personal opinion, based on the property and its location, I don't think this is an unnecessary hardship. So this is something that they're asking to do, to split the lot, potentially create a second unit, but it's not necessarily an unnecessary hardship. Usually an unnecessary hardship would infer that the lot that was purchased was in such an abnormal shape it's almost impossible for something to be built on. That's typically what you would refer to as an unnecessary hardship, because subdivision regulations usually, when you consider them, they're dropped from the sky on the whole city. So when you drop subdivision regulations from the sky on the whole city, at some point you're gonna have somebody who has an unnecessary hardship because they're used generally across the board. That the variance desired will not adversely affect public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, general welfare, and that granting the variance desired will not be opposed to general spirit, intent of these regulations, and will not affect health, safety, or general welfare. So it will not affect public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, general welfare, and is not against the general spirit or intent of these regulations. So splitting a lot and creating another unit is not abnormal. Obviously, we see that a lot when it comes to duplexes. People will split them in half, create a twin home, or somebody will split a lot if they're allowed to and create an accessory dwelling unit or another rental unit in that particular case. So that's not abnormal at all. So this is the property, 400 North Main. This is 3rd Main Street. Right now, there's 100 feet on the width and then 75 on the depth. So potentially they could split it somewhere around here and allow 2.5 feet setback as is required and build a second unit in this area. Obviously they still have to be set back 20 feet from the property line here, 2.5 feet here, 2.5 feet here, and 11.5 feet here. So this would be their buildable envelope in this area here. Public notices given incurred a small cost. Legal considerations approved as formed. Attorney opinion of Robert Kuykendall. Decision for conditional use of variance by the planning commission is final, cannot be appealed to the city council, must be appealed to the city court. KSA 12759E is where guidance does not need to be met in order to grant variance. So that's just what we went through. KSA 12759E is those 1 through 5. So it is recommended the planning commission open the public hearing, receive comments from the public, close the public hearing, and the staff's recommendation is to approve the variance request, case number VER 26-2. So, Mr. Chair, at this point, you can open the public hearing.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing.
Very good.
I am Steve Burns. I'm just a local builder.
Can you come up here, please?
Come on up. First and last name right here, and then your address.
Gentlemen, I am Steve Burns, a local home builder here in the area. I actually own the 400 North Main, which is a rental home of mine. Just looking to, the lot's pretty good size, so just looking to build either a possible, another rental to add to my portfolio, or if I can't build it cheap enough, we would obviously sell it and make it a property for a home.
Just a single family home?
Single family. It would probably be, depending on what we get away with in terms of the lot size, it would probably be 2 bed, 2 bath, or potentially 3 bed, 2 bath with a single car garage.
What was the lot, 35 feet wide or 45?
The lot, so we're not sure if it's gonna be 35 or 40 yet, because we're not sure exactly where he's gonna split it. So right now, the variance request is pretty open, because we're not 100% sure where that split's gonna occur. The depth of the lot, regardless, is gonna be 75, but the width, we can't say at this moment.
The width, I'd just be looking to maximize it. It's just pretty hard to build a house that's too small. You don't want it too small, so we'd be looking roughly 1,000 square feet.
Gonna have to be a deep house,
Yeah,
cause you're gonna have to have your setbacks on either side.
right.
Kind of a shotgun house.
Yeah, we are currently building 2 of them at the think I got a blueprint already figured out for the lot. Currently building 2 of them in El Dorado on similar sized lots, so.
I don't have anything else.
Thank you. No, we're good right now, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Eric Gator, 143 East Fourth. And I own the property at 418 North Main, which is right next and to the north of 400 North Main, the property in question. All residential properties on Main Street between 3rd and 4th Street are 100 feet wide, with 1 house per lot in large lots. Cramming a small house next to the existing lot and the split will hurt the look of the neighborhood and won't follow the City of Goddard's minimum depth rules. Because of this, I oppose this variance request.
Make sure you write your name and your address down there on this, please. Thank you. Anyone else on this side of the room?
Well, I wonder about, okay.
First and last name where you live, and then if you have a question, just form it as, phrase it to the planning commission as a statement so that they can receive it.
I'm Danita Vader, Eric's wife, and I've lived in Goddard for about 48 years. Started out on Brazos Street. Now we live on East 4th. We're the one with the Christmas decorations at Christmas and to music and all that. And preserving Main Street, it seems to me, has been Goddard's main objective, getting Main Street right. And this house being on Main Street, I feel that, you know, you're gonna have, I don't know how they would get a garage and cars parked back there too. So you're gonna have cars on Main Street. And I know he's a builder, and I don't know if he brings any of his trailers and that kind of stuff. I just think it's gonna screw up Main Street's whole idea.
Thank you. Thank you. Alright, I guess we'll close the public hearing.
Close public hearing.
Michael, what is this area currently zoned?
R1.
R1. So if we split it, would that, does an R1 have like a 3,000 square foot?
4,000. That's what the variance is for.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's setbacks, and lot size, so both those combined. Sorry, not setbacks. Lot width and depth and total lot area.
think the lot's big enough myself.
Mr. Hay, do you have anything down there? Mr. Moon, do you have anything? Mr. Walker? I think I share Mr. Klein's opinion as well.
From the street view, it does look like it'd be pretty tight. I agree.
Are we ready for a motion?
I sure am. Who wants to be the one to make it?
Well, I know what the only history line you guys.
Well, I'll jump in. I guess I share what there several other members, some that's in that, it just seems too small. I mean, this is our main street, and I know that Main Street isn't the best, Main Street doesn't have a lot of high profile newer houses, especially further to the north, but, I think we should try to be making it look nicer. Not that adding a house wouldn't make it look nicer, but I think splitting a lot is not the right decision for this location. So I will make a motion to reject the variance request case VRA 26-2.
I'll second
All in favor?
it. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Alright. Motion is denied. Thank you for coming in, appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
If you want. This is item H3. This is a variance request VAR 26-3. So on March 9th, 2026, Overland Property Group presented their site plan for consideration by the Planning Commission for an apartment complex located south of Walmart on the west side of 183rd. During the review, it was mentioned that the proposed building was 66 feet tall, which exceeded the maximum amount of 62.5 feet. After deliberation, the Planning Commission expressed that it would feel comfortable with reviewing a variance with increased height. With that knowledge, developers submitted a variance application for review and approval. So once again, we're going through the variances. In this particular case, they're varying the applicable bulk regulations, including maximum height lot coverage. And we're going to go through KSA 12759E, which, as mentioned before, this is for guidance, not necessarily checkboxes that have to be met. So that the variance requested arise from such condition which is unique to the property in question and which is not ordinarily found in the same zoning district and is not created by an action or actions of the property owner or applicant. So it is not unique to the land in question, certainly in this particular case for the Overland Property Group. It was the gabled roofs. They wanted to go extra high on the gabled roofs, which gave it a more aesthetic appeal. No actions have been taken by the owners at this point, except for the course that they've submitted the site plan, which is approved contingent upon the variance. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners and residents, so there is no adverse impact on the adjacent property owners. It's largely a commercial area, as you remember, it's south of Walmart. And the strict application of the provision of these regulations from which a variance is requested will constitute an unnecessary hardship upon the property owner represented in the application. So this is not an unnecessary hardship for the property group, as mentioned. The gabled roofs that were extra tall added an aesthetic appeal. It wasn't considered an unnecessary hardship, other than reworking the architectural layout. That the variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare, and that the granting of the variance desired will not be opposed to the general spirit and intent of these regulations, and that will not affect health, safety, and general welfare. So in this particular case, given its location and the discussion that we had in the previous planning commission meeting, it's not going to affect safety, moral, order, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare, and it's not against the general spirit or intent of these regulations. So this is what you saw last month. So they marked it here. As mentioned before, they were putting it right around the truss, and so we asked them, hey, where's the peak? And they marked the peak as 66 feet, 10.5 inches, which exceeds the 62.5 feet. So that's why we said, okay, well, if we're considering increasing height in the C2 district, you should also submit a variance request as a separate, just in case. And so they've done both. And so in this particular case, we've approved the 75 feet increase, but also here's the variance as requested. So public notice was given, incurred small cost. Once again, you've seen this before, but a decision for conditional use or variance by the Planning Commission's final cannot be appealed. City Council must be appealed to City County Court. Per City Attorney KSA 12759 East for guidance was not reviewed that one variance. So it is recommended the Planning Commission one open public hearing, go through the similar steps as before. So Mr. Chair, at this point, the public hearing.
We'll open the public hearing.
Very good. You want to talk about apartments?
No.
Public hearing.
Very good. Do you guys want to talk about apartments?
I just wanna know how tall the Stevens apartments are.
Stevens? I
The
have to go back and
sandbox
look.
apartments,
Stevens are only 3 stories. I'm gonna say they're like 45 feet.
and how many stories will these be?
These ones are 1 commercial,
Go back to your picture for a second.
Yeah. 3 residential. So commercial here, 3 residential, and then the gabled roofs are really, really tall.
And so there won't be any like loft apartments up in that top part?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's 3 stories of residential, 1 commercial story.
So I have a question. Actually, I have 2. So if we pass this variance, which is gonna get them to their 66 feet, 10 inches, are they limited then to that height? And because we just passed the other, I guess it has to go to city council, doesn't it?
The height increase has to go to city council.
So that's not it's not
Yeah.
for sure yet.
The 66, it doesn't set it, it just lets them exceed the 62.5 feet. So it doesn't say you shall not exceed 66 feet, 10 inches, it just says you're allowed to exceed the 62.5 feet. So we didn't set a maximum on them, but they've already.
So we're not, I guess my question is, we're not restricting them by passing this variance, or it'd be better that they
Go up to
just wait
75.
until, or assuming this.
No, at this point, no, it's not gonna set a maximum.
Okay.
It just allows them to exceed the 62.5 feet, and they've already gone through MABCD, they're going through MABCD right now, so I believe the A&E, they're already set at 66.
Okay, that's fine, I was just curious, I mean, we've granted, or we're in the process of giving them more, or giving anyone more.
No, I, that's a good question. I mean, we could engage them to see if they wanted to go higher potentially. I mean, but city council would still have to approve that 75 feet before, but I think really right now they just want to build.
Okay,
And so,
that's fine.
Yeah.
If it doesn't set a maximum and then
Mhm.
city council passes it at 75, they still don't have to meet that though.
Say that again.
The variance would allow them to exceed that as well.
Yes, yeah, so either way, and let's say city council shot down to 75, they still have the variance, so they can go, they can exceed the
So they
62.
could do 82 as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, in theory, yeah, we didn't set a maximum on that, so.
So could that, so theoretically, they could put a 100-story building on this? if
Yeah,
that's
I
what it is
mean,
now?
granted, when they submit their site plan, the site plan was approved, you guys approved the site plan.
I was gonna, yeah.
So when you approve the site
plan,
plan, if they change their elevations, if they change the whole site plan, that's a significant change from what was approved by planning commission. So, yeah, you're right, it doesn't set a maximum of the variance, but you've already approved the site plan as presented. If they go and submit to A&E, and then they submit a building permit, we're going through the process, and they're 80 feet, that's a deviation from what was approved by planning
That's
commission.
right, okay.
We would pull their building permit.
I'm not trying to
They would
imply
be
anything, I was
stuck,
just
yeah.
curious.
No, you're right, it's a good question, but yeah. it
And they'd have
doesn't-
to come back to the planning commission.
They would, because if they start building and you see them put like a fourth and a fifth and a sixth and a seventh, we'd be like, wait a minute, that's way too many trusses, like what's happening here, these studs are going up too high. You know, so that would be a significant issue because their site plan was already approved by planning commission at 66 feet 10 inches.
Perfect, right.
So a deviation from that would be no good. That's when I have to be bad.
Okay.
And I
Gotcha.
pull their building permit and then they cry, so that's what happens. Which has happened before, so.
So could we vote, if we were worried about them exceeding 75 feet, could part of this approval be approving to a max of 75 feet?
Yeah, you could. You can always
But
go
again,
down.
the site plan says 6610, so they, I mean, really at the 11 inch, I mean, we're not gonna get that nitpicky, but
Yeah.
that exceeds what we said, and we could actually question it. Right.
You could.
Yeah.
You could.
But I don't think we have any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've covered that. I forgot about that. But that's, yeah, I mean,
No, it's a very good question.
That's why I was curious.
Site plans are approved for that reason. Once the site plan is approved by the planning commission, it lays out the elevation and everything on there. Those A&E architecture and engineering drawings are submitted as part of their total package to MABCD. So if there was ever concerns that somebody was gonna try to throw on like another layer of residential on top of that, I mean, that would be a significant issue that we would have to, like I said, I don't mind being the bad guy, I've been the bad guy before, it's just, typically people don't do that, so.
Right, right.
Once the site plan's approved, they move forward.
Wasn't
There has been issues before, so just to be fair, there's been situations where people have deviated, and then I have to be the bad guy. But I don't mind being the bad guy if it's necessary, because obviously, if the planning commission approves something, then they've approved it. We want everybody to abide by the same rules and regulations, so.
Basically, it was approved to the top of the building without the roof.
No, we approved.
And this was approved,
But,
this.
Because
And
we
you can see
knew it
here,
was
66.
6610 when they came in, that's where they came in.
okay.
Yeah. Originally when they submitted this, like I said, they had it marked here at the truss level, which I think which I was talking with Commissioner Parks about that, because sometimes architects will submit it and they're like, it's this tall, right? And you're like, but our regulations say, what's the peak? And so I said, hey, what's the peak? And then they submitted this, and we saw 6610 and a half, that this is what they resubmitted, this is what you guys saw at the last planning commission meeting. And I said, that's too tall. So, but then the planning commission said, we're okay with it being that tall, but you guys just still need to submit a variance. So now you're seeing the variance.
Okay.
But this is what's being packaged and sent to MABCD as is, like this. So, yeah, I mean, technically it could be 66 feet, no 10 inches, you know what I mean? It might sink a little bit. Maybe it's 66 feet, 11 inches or something like that, Slight deviations, we're not gonna go out there and tape measure. But if they try to stick another residential on top of there, that's a significant deviation to what was approved in the planning commission. So,
Are we ready for?
I think so.
I make a motion, we approve the variance request case B AR 26-3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright.
This is H4. This is a modification to the R1 single family residential with the introduction of modular homes. So, under Appendix C, Article 2, the City of Goddard has a definition of mobile homes, manufactured, and modular homes. One of the key distinctions, at least as I can see, is that modular homes is prefabricated off-site, brought to the site, and affixed to the foundation. So, they have a slab, or they'll have footings, and they'll affix it to that foundation. The difference between that and a mobile home, it seems that a mobile home is brought in, dropped on maybe like cinder blocks and not skirted, and then a manufactured home is basically similar as a mobile home. It's brought in, dropped on cinder blocks, but then skirted. And so that's at least the definition that I'm comfortable conveying. But the definitions themselves of the subdivision regulations are laid out here. And so you can see mobile home and manufactured generally considered the same, with modular home calling out assembly and site and its foundation, that it's transported to the site and is connected to public utilities. Permanent foundation, that's the key word there, the permanent foundation. Planning Commission is reviewing a modification to the R1 single family residential zoning classification to add modular homes to the acceptable uses. Right now, R1 says single family, detached, manufactured, but it doesn't say modular, and it doesn't say mobile, which we're not asking for mobile to be introduced. Mobile homes have its own provisions within the subdivision regulations. So these are land use types. I've taken some of these pictures. I went and visited these two in downtown Wichita by the developer. This one is off of 54. This one's actually in the city of Goddard currently. So I make that distinction between mobile manufactured here with the skirting. I would consider that more manufactured when you have a skirt around it, and then mobile, you kind of see that it's still got the hitch on it. It's kind of exposed underneath. Modular, these are the concrete foundations that they're affixed to, that they're not meant to be moved once they're dropped in place. So we can't, obviously, if modular is introduced into the R1, I won't say that they're always going to look like this, but I will say that they're more of a permanent type than the manufactured, which is currently allowed under R1. So that's just something to take into consideration. Public notice is given incurring small costs. Legally, it's approved as a form. It is recommended the Planning Commission once again open the public hearing, receive the comments from the public, close the public hearing, and then approve the modification to R1 residential for the introduction of modular homes after deliberation. This will be presented to the City Council at the next council meeting for approval.
Alright, we'll open the public hearing.
You're welcome to talk. You don't want to say anything? I'm shocked. Okay.
Not till I close it. We'll close the public hearing.
Very good. Deliberation.
Is there a reason we need to allow manufactured homes? Could we?
Manufactured are already allowed.
Yeah, but do they, I mean,
You mean modular or manufactured?
manufactured, could we strike that and replace with modular?
Yes, you could. You could, because the ordinance hasn't been adopted yet. I have to modify the ordinance. So if you wanted to introduce modular and you said, hey, I want to remove manufactured, I can modify the ordinance before it's adopted by City Council, if that's what you wanted. Now, City Council would have to approve that. If they want to keep manufactured, then they could change it per their recommendation and change it around, send it back to you guys. There's different ways that City Council can act on it. They can table it, they can send it back to you, they can approve it as is, they can approve it with conditions. So there's different ways that council can act on an item. But yes, if you wanted to remove manufactured as an acceptable use within R1, that's something you guys can consider as well.
Is there a way that we could make it to anytime somebody wants to put in a manufactured housing, they'd have to come to the planning commission?
Yes, you could do it as a conditional use. You could say that I want manufactured as a conditional use, because then conditional use permits have to come before the planning commission.
But if,
Can you go back to your picture? I'm sorry.
Yeah. You don't have to apologize, I work with Boston.
I'm sorry, modular homes. Anytime.
Oh, modular.
Anytime there's a modular home that somebody wants to put in the city,
Mm-hmm.
they need to come to get a conditional use permit.
Yeah, you could definitely consider that as if you want to have them under a conditional use, which a conditional use is just an acceptable use with conditions. So, but modular homes in Wichita, that's something that when we went to visit, I looked up local land records. It was off of Estelle Avenue in downtown Wichita. So when you click on the parcel, it says single family detached, which was shocking to me because I thought modular would be more like a manufactured home. So when you click on the parcel, it says the land use is a single family detached traditional home for a modular. But if you go click on a mobile home or a manufactured home, it says manufactured home, or it says mobile home park. So the county's making a land use distinction on mobile land records. They consider the ones on the right as no different than Seasons, Spring Hill, and St. Andrews. The ones on the left, they're making a different land use distinction in the county, which it was kind of interesting. So in theory, the developer who we were walking through the two on the right said that they can build them at $130,000, but then the bank appraised it at $200,000 when it was built. So in theory, the ones on the right will appreciate in value just like a traditional house, whereas the ones on the left, they'll appreciate at a different level or maybe depreciate depending on how mobile homes are perceived by the county.
Are we expecting a large influx of these into the city?
Modular? I can't say if that'd be a large response. I've talked to 3 developers that have talked about modular homes, but I haven't seen any of them being like, I really want to move forward with 300 modular homes. In my opinion, it seems like something that could be more of infill in Old Town, but it's hard to say. Nobody has said to me that they want to build 300 modular homes. They've said, what does the city think about modular homes? How is this defined? What does this look like? And so, no, but I don't know. I think
We
modular,
would fill some lots in the old part of town,
potentially.
but then on the other hand, the same thing we just rejected, the lots are smaller, they're not deep enough.
These lots are, these are 50 by 75, I think, in Wichita. So that's something to think about. But yeah, I mean, they don't really need to have that. There's no garages on these. In Wichita, they just drive off the road onto gravel, which we wouldn't allow gravel in Goddard, but they would drive off the road onto a paved parking area, kind of like Big Arm development, with no garage. But it's just something to be considered. In my personal opinion, that what I was looking at is that modular seems to be of a higher quality than mobile and manufactured. And since manufacturers are already allowed, if we introduce modular, perhaps we can encourage more modular versus manufactured, since they seem to appreciate value, which is where I'm going with it.
Yeah, when you sent that, just the video from the gentleman in
I
town to
did,
everybody, right?
to everybody.
Yeah. Did you see that?
I didn't see a video either.
They went to everybody's, the planning commission, so your email, your planning commission email.
You can see
I can
all
send it
their-
back again.
You can see all their models, and after our conversation, I was skeptical, but I was highly impressed with the visual that they did in their video.
Great. This particular developer, which was brought up to my attention first by Commissioner Walker, and then later by Kathy Sexton, who used to be the city administrator of Derby. And so I went and checked them out with other cities, Mays, Derby, Valley Center, and we went and walked around them. I can't guarantee the quality though. Once you adopt the land use, and I want to be clear about that, I can't guarantee the quality of the modular homes. These particular ones are of a higher quality, but just because these ones are nice doesn't mean we accept modular that all of them will be the ones on the right. So that's just something to be.
You can't accept quality, you can't guarantee the quality on anything.
No, I can't, and I want to be clear about that. I can't guarantee quality on anything. We have to have some pretty severe restrictive covenants to make that happen, and so we're trying to work that out right now, which is I'll bring that up with the city planner comments at the very end, is that we're trying to work out some of the quality issues that we have with duplexes right now. So if, in theory, the ones that we deal with the duplexes, if we can adopt something quasi-judicial with duplexes, maybe we can adopt something quasi-judicial with modular homes, but that's just something to consider. And
Yeah, you should look at these.
And I think, to me, it's, there's a lot of hesitation around duplexes currently with the amount that we have coming on board. To me, this is the step before you get to the full single-family home.
Yeah.
It offers a entry-level, single-family residence that's not a duplex. And I think it's a good price point option for people, and for growing the city, I think it's a good option.
Yeah, that's good.
So is that your motion?
No, I'm just, I think it needs to be strongly considered as something to be looking at.
I agree, and I mean, these are some small examples of modular homes. You can build them very
Right.
large as well.
Absolutely.
And I've walked through some, we looked at building one at one point, and I felt they were built better than the home I'm living in currently, so they're very sturdy.
Yeah, I don't know why we would, if we're currently allowing manufactured homes, I don't know why we would not allow modular, but I think we should consider, do we want new manufactured homes?
Manufactured home is a modular or a mobile home with skirts.
Yeah, so why don't we remove that? Replace modular with manufactured.
Or just keep manufactured and make it be so that it has to come before somebody wants to put it in, so that you can have some control over it. I hesitate to ban anything because you have different income levels.
So just make it a conditional use.
That was kind of, I liked his idea.
So allow module.
I'd like
modular.
If we were to do
that,
you could probably do mobile and manufacturing.
Yeah. Make those conditional uses and then make it modular and more stable.
So mobile homes right now are not allowed under R1. We have, mobile homes are not allowed, actually in the city at all. They're all grandfathered in.
Okay.
Yeah, so anytime that you see a mobile home, there's very specific provisions in our subdivision regulations that says, if you have a mobile home and you remove it, you only have about 6 to 8 months to replace it with one that's at least, can't be older than 6 to 8 years old, I think is what it is. So you have basically, I might be mixing that up a little bit, but you have basically half a year. If you remove your mobile home and 6 months elapse, you can't replace it. If within 6 months you do replace it, it has to be one that's no less than 8 years old.
So basically, if you take an old one out over here, you gotta put a new one in.
So we had to replace that one with one that was newer.
Yeah.
We were very strict about that. We made that very clear that you can't, if somebody submitted a plat to me right now and said I wanted mobile homes, there's nothing you can do. We say no, you have to try again.
Yeah.
Pick a different land use, that's what I would tell them. Because there's no zoning classification to apply for to even put in a mobile home. Other than a PUD. If you said, hey, I want to do a PUD and do mobile homes, and then define in that PUD that mobile homes are allowed, that's the only way you could do a mobile home park. But even then, the regulations would still apply. They'd have to be brand new, and if you demolished one, you could replace it within after 6 months. All of those things would still apply.
Yeah.
So yeah, mobile homes are. That's kind of why the area of influence goes back to the area of influence. You can see why Wichita and Goddard are doing this, because nobody wants the mobile home parks. I think I probably talked enough.
But it sounds like you could do a mobile home park, you put skirting around the bottom and call that manufactured.
You could on R1, yeah.
So that's where I'm back to.
Yeah, I think.
They all have to be subdivided lot. So a mobile home park though is one big lot.
Yeah.
Right, so
So
that's,
you
you have to
lot.
be very distinct
Yeah.
about that. If you submitted a plat to me and it was one big lot, I would be like, no, you can't do that. But if you submitted a plat to me and they're all subdivided into individual lots, and you're like, I'm gonna put a manufactured home on every single one, that would be allowed in R1. Yeah, so it's a little technical, but.
So I would make a motion that we put conditional use on manufactured homes and we make modular homes part of our home.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So manufacturer would go to as a CUP, conditional use permit.
Yeah.
And modular would be considered an acceptable use.
Yes.
Final consideration will be before city council. So H5 is the same thing, just for the R2 zoning classification. And the reason I'm doing R1 and R2 and not R3 and R4 is because R3 and R4 adopt R1 and R2. So R3, we have what's called cumulative zoning, which reaches back behind you and pulls the land uses from behind you and brings it forward. So R3 reaches behind it and grabs R1 and R2, and grabs R2 mostly, and brings it forward. And R4 grabs R1, R2, and R3 and brings it all forward. So with R1 being adopted, that works for R4, but R2 would have to be changed to allow for it to happen in R3. So I'm asking for modular to be introduced into R2.
Okay, we'll open the public here.
So it would be a duplex, a modular duplex?
No, R2 is a zoning classification that says you can do single family, manufactured, two family, but it doesn't say you can do modular. So under R2, like I said, this is kind of, it's cumulative in the sense that, like I said, it reaches behind you. So R2 reaches behind it and grabs R1, brings it forward and says you can do everything in R1. And then, but R2 says, it goes a little further, it says you can do two family. R3 reaches behind it, grabs R2, says you can do everything in R2, plus multifamily. Then R4 says you can do everything behind me, R1, R2, R3, and lots can be smaller, and you can do, bigger apartments, condos, and higher, and lots can be smaller, so it changes that. So that's what's cumulative zoning, it just kind of passes on to the next level. So R2 is not saying that the manufactured and modular have to be duplexes, it's just simply saying if you wanted to do a modular home that was a duplex, which it was in that previous picture, this one I believe was, no, maybe not that one. But there was one that was a duplex, so this one I think was a duplex. So this is, R2 is saying you could do a modular home that's a single family, or you could do a modular home that's also a duplex, so.
But it would also bring the manufactured housing would have to have a variance or a conditional use.
If you want to.
Yes.
All right, before we get ahead here,
Yes.
let's open the public hearing.
You guys wanna talk about it? Nothing.
All
Alright.
right, we'll close the public hearing. Okay, continue.
So basically the same as an R1, but have to have a conditional use permit for mobile homes.
Manufacturing.
Or manufactured.
Right, the same motion would carry
Right.
this one, yes. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Before we move on though, if you had an R3 or an R4, could you still do a manufactured home without a CUP? Or have we
So,
not locked it down, do we have to do a CUP?
once you do a CUP and it's changed on R1 and R2, then R3 and R4 are saying whatever's in R1 and R2 applies to R3 and R4.
Okay.
So, if R3 says all acceptable uses in R1, then that means you wouldn't be able to actually do manufacturing. R3 and R4 has its own conditional uses. So R3 and R4 says you can do modular, but you wouldn't be able to do manufacturing. We'd have to change that to say traditional use permit for manufactured homes within R3 and R4. Right now, it only just inherits the acceptable uses from the previous zoning classification. So if you move manufactured to conditional use under R1 and R2, R3 is only going to take modular, single family, two family, and it won't take manufactured.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is item H6. This is official zoning map change. So, city staff is presenting to the planning commission the possibility of removing the R1A zoning classification, such that if annexation continues, there is no concern about the R1A being used in the future for the default zoning classification. So let me just kind of explain that a little bit. At the previous planning commission meeting, I mentioned, that I read all the subdivision regulations all the time. And so as I'm reading subdivision regulations, it says, when you annex land, the default zoning classification shall be the most restrictive zoning classification. Now, when I go through planning commission minutes from previous planning commissions, from before I was here and my predecessors were here, everybody was interpreting that to mean R1. And so I continue to interpret it as being R1, as being the most restrictive. There could be an argument, that doesn't mean it's a strong argument, but it doesn't mean it's a bad argument, it doesn't mean it's a good argument, it doesn't mean it's bad, it's just kind of in the middle, that you could say that R1A is the most restrictive because it's very similar to R1, but it's got a minimum square foot requirement of 1,200 square feet. So you could say that that's more restrictive than R1. So maybe that's the default zoning classification. So that caused some consternation among city staff, and so we were kind of discussing that, and the thought was, why don't we just remove R1A just like we removed R1B? And so then during that conversation I said, you could remove R1A, however, if you remove R1A, this agenda item is a little complicated, so feel free to interrupt me anytime if you guys have any questions. If you do remove R1A, you create almost immediate non-conformity in Autumn Blaze, because Autumn Blaze has got 86 lots that are zoned R1A. You can't just strip a zoning classification out from under a lot and have no zoning classification. Because zoning is what justifies the land use that sits on top of it. So I'm like, you will create nonconformity. So the question came up, well, can we just rezone all of Autumn Blaze that has those 86 lots? And the answer is yes, you can. Back in 2020, I had this conversation with our city attorney, and I said, based on KSA 12757, at least my interpretation, which the attorney agreed with, if I rezone one lot, I need to notify everyone within 200 feet, right? Publish it in the city newspaper, notify everyone within 200 feet. But what if I rezone 100 lots, all at the same time? Is that the same thing? And when I was discussing this with the attorney, he said, no, based on his understanding and based on my understanding, there's singular rezoning and there's general rezoning. General rezoning would be when, if you look at the zoning map and you decide that this whole area, and you want to rezone this whole area, you can change the official zoning map and rezone that whole swath of land without sending out letters to everyone and just publish it in the paper, taking the zoning map to the planning commission, and then having it be adopted by the city council. And so that's kind of what you're looking at right now, as is what you're looking at right now, is rezoning Autumn Blaze to R1 so that it doesn't become non-conforming, and then at the next agenda item, removing R1A so that there is no confusion about is it R1, is it R1A? And also the question is R1A even necessary? I mean, we're not seeing anybody asking for an R1A. Nobody asks for R1A. Everyone asks for R4, PUDs, so R1A might be somewhat antiquated. So that's just something to consider. But that's the background. Planning Commission is doing a general revision. General revision meaning obviously more than what the city attorney has said. 10 lots is what he was saying. That's not a hard law, just to be clear. The city attorney was like, well, 10 or more seems like a general revision. There's 86 lots here, so I think we're well clear of the 10 lots. Here's 86 lots. They're all zoned R1A currently. City staff is asking for rezoning to R1. And then if we remove R1A, they won't be considered non-conforming. Is there any questions about this one? We're going to have to go through, of course, the same process. We'll open the public hearing, receive comments, etc. But here's the attorney opinion. This, like I said, this conversation happened 6 years ago, so I'm just going back to my emails. 10 or more lots are impacted this be treated as a general revision. Consideration should be given to whom would be impacted to change shifts from residential to commercial. We're not shifting from residential. This is a good point. Obviously, it doesn't apply to this agenda item, but it's still a good point. You guys could change a whole swath of Goddard from residential to commercial. That could cause a serious issue, but in this particular case, that's not what we're considering. But technically, that is allowed. General revisions are treated differently than individual lot rezoning, because like I said, one block, 200 feet, letters go out. General revision, you're just changing the zoning map. Letters don't go out, but it is published in the city newspaper. We wait 20 days, we take it to you guys for consideration. Mr. Chair, at this point, I would ask you to open the public hearing.
I'll open the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Anything?
I'll close
Nothing?
Close the public hearing.
All right.
I think the only question I have is does this change their tax
No.
base at all?
Not really. Taxes are going to be predicated on 3 big things, which everyone, you've probably seen all the online chatter. So the 3 big things obviously are going to be comps. Comps are going to be comparable properties that have sold. So if your property, you buy your property for $200,000 and your neighbor buys their property for $250,000, you're probably, and it's a similar layout as your property, you're going to see your taxes go up. Zoning is a justification for what sits on the land. In theory, if you rezone it as commercial, they could potentially see the property taxes go up, but it's largely based on comparable properties.
Okay.
Right.
I wasn't.
Yeah. Another thing is going to be the material composition of your property.
Sure.
So if you take your property and you tear it down to nothing and rebuild it in today's price, based on today's current prices, would it be worth more? That's also a consideration. So you could build a house maybe for $150,000, and you did. And then you tear it down and you build it at today's prices, it could be worth $250,000. Your taxes are going to be higher. So there's different things to be considered. I want to disqualify myself. I'm not a county appraiser, so but I do talk to them a lot. that's it.
But Autumn Blaze is full, correct?
Yes, our place is full,
They're not adding another addition or anything. So what's the purpose of all this?
to remove R1A.
Okay. From Autumn Blaze?
To remove R1A from the whole city,
Okay.
but since Autumn Blaze is R1A, the
It has to
zoning,
be included.
yes, I don't like nonconformity for that very reason, because banks wanna know if we stripped out R1A from Autumn Blaze, and just let's say we did away with R1A, and we didn't rezone Autumn Blaze, they would be sitting on nothing for their zoning. And then if a bank or an appraiser reached out to me and said, hey, are they allowed to have a single family detached house on that lot? I would say, I have no idea, I have zero idea. That doesn't make banks feel very comfortable about underwriting a loan on a house that could potentially go away and not be rebuilt. So that's a serious concern.
And R1A was a minimum of 1,200?
1,200 square feet. So R1 is going, that's actually a good point. Another provision of the general revision is that under state law, KSA 12757, it says, are you going from a less restrictive to a more restrictive zoning classification? So we're not. We're going from a more restrictive to a less restrictive zoning classification. So that's just something to consider as well. Because if we were stripping out R1A, but we were making it, I don't know, something more restrictive, then we would have to notify all the property owners that, hey, your house is going from a less restrictive to a more restrictive zoning classification, whatever that would be.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just something to consider. Those are good questions though, that's good.
I don't have any problem removing
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the official zoning map.
it. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Very good. Final consideration has to be before city council, so that's just a H7 is the removal of R1A from the zoning regulations. So we just kind of explained all this a little bit. It'll only take effect after publication in the newspaper, and after city council makes a final determination. But we're asking for the removal of R1A. This is R1A. This is all as you can see where it was. Public notice was given current small cost, legally it's put in this form. Open the public hearing.
All right, we'll open the public hearing. And we'll close the public hearing.
Maybe Doug wanted to say something. You didn't give him time to respond.
I'll make a motion to approve the removal of R1A from zoning regulations. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Very good. Moving on to the staff report. So, resolution of two-family development. So we've been working with the city council on adopting certain provisions that would require duplexes or twin homes to have a more stringent review process when it comes to building permits and construction material. So we were going to have it first as a restrictive covenant that developers would have to adopt. And then we decided during the last council meeting that we could consider a resolution that would just have a blanket resolution over the city, that as developers ask for rezonings, that blanket resolution would be in effect, saying that these duplexes would have to have, at a minimum, tree planting, facade requirements, other considerations in terms of garages, sound barriers with the 1 hour fire rated wall on top of that. And these standards would apply to all new developments that are asking for that rezoning. So that's just something that we're working through right now with city council and city staff internally. Number two, comprehensive plan is underway. Emails have gone out to individuals to schedule one-on-one interviews, including planning commission chair, vice chair. So Chair Coyne and Chair Walker, you should have got emails from Olson saying that they would like to talk to you about the comprehensive plan. So hopefully that would be constructive. So we're underway. We sent out a lot of GIS data to them to kind of start that process. And city council did explicitly want Sharon Woods to be on that comprehensive plan review, so we're working with Sharon Woods as well for a housing study to go with that. All right. Jay, planning commissioner comments.
I'm assuming the new RV place gonna get a sign put up?
They're gonna tear down their existing, that's not true, they wanted to tear down their existing sign, and then they decided to turn it into a monument sign. So they were gonna tear it down and put it in a different location, and that's what they originally told me, because we mentioned that, hey, it's time for you to conform. And so now they've changed it around where they're going to turn it into a monument sign. So, and, I've been working with different sign contractors who are trying to get on that project right now, asking what the provisions of the monument sign are, and so I'm happy to get that,
No, I'm good.
I think the only comment I would make is this, we just ask that you relay to the city council as they go through this resolution process that you make sure we're realistic and not too restrictive. I know it's a frustrating scenario with all the duplexes, but we also have to try to remember to grow a little.
Okay.
And that's existing ones, or not the existing ones that are being built?
No, so the resolution would only apply to the ones that are for new development. So if somebody who approaches the city and says, hey, I wanna rezone 80 acres and I want it to be single family and two family, they would apply to those. We can't,
It's all the ones that are already platted and everything.
they've already gone through entitlements, yes, and so they,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's it. That's
I was
it.
just saying, I love the idea. I mean, I know we had multiple conversations about the one we just didn't do, and that was a big topic. So I love the idea. I hope we can come to a happy medium where we get the quality we're after and not be so restrictive that we deter them from coming at all.
Sure. So I think that was conveyed at the last council meeting.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. We are trying to hire a building inspector to try to get out from MABCD. There's been some consternation, myself personally, with MABCD in terms of sort of inconsistency. Some of their inspectors are really good, some of them they don't even get out of the car, so there's been some issues. So we're trying to get our own building inspector. And if we do, then we can, any type of covenants that go above and beyond the IRC, the National Residential Code, that building inspector can add it, and so we have somebody who actually can enforce it, because I'm not qualified to do building inspections, so.
Yeah, no, I think that'll be good. It's all right.
Anything else? Next regular planning commission meeting will be May 11th, 7 p.m.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All of them. No. All in favor?
Aye.